Batayuki Mau Mau, Batayuki Mau Mau, everybody. Welcome to our show here. It's Talk More Talk, Solo Beatles podcast, where we talk about the careers of John, Paul, George, and Ringo after they split from the Beatles. Sometimes we also do Beatles shows, depending on what's new, what's in the news, on what we have. So, very excited to be talking about an album today in our series that we call Another Listen. It's an album that doesn't get much love or attention, so that's why we're doing it in the series. I'm talking about Old Wave, Ringo's formerly very elusive album, which is now not really elusive anymore, thanks to Record Store Day, because this came out on Record Store Day, colored vinyl, smoky brown vinyl, and CD. And I know Tom's got it. I'm giving you the cue there. So it doesn't look so brown, but it is. It looks
No,
whiter.
well, it
But
looks
it
more
is
smoky than brown.
Yeah.
smoky, like
Yeah.
tanny brown. And
Mhm.
yeah, very excited to be finally dedicating a show to this album. Another Listen is a show that we do. We call it that because there's some albums that don't get really good notices, not critical acclaim, or maybe not very loved by fans sometimes, and we
Or
want to see.
just don't get released in the U.S.
Yeah, this is the first. That's the whole thing. This is the first time Old Wave has ever been released on vinyl in the U.S. It was on a CD in
hmm
1994, but it was very hard to get, and we'll talk about that. Well, let me tell you all about who we are, in case those of you who are here for the first time, if that's possible. I'm Joe Mayo. I have a YouTube channel called Mean Mr. Mayo, and I talk about Beatles and solo Beatles and other stuff. And I'm here with my three co-hosts. We always start out with the queen of all media. We like to do ladies first here. Everybody do your bowing, because we're talking about the author of such books as Michael Jackson, FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop. And we're talking about her book, Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks. And also Fandom and the Beatles, the act you've known for all these years, Kit O'Toole. Hey, Kit.
Hey, Joe, Tom, Ken, and everybody out there. Always glad to be with you on these Monday nights.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've been here.
Yes,
We
indeed.
missed at least one show. We're here usually every other Monday night, by the way, at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to try us out here on YouTube. Next, we have one of the two legs podcast, straight from Arizona here, and he doesn't have to wear long sleeves. It looks like we're talking about the Paul McCartney podcast, Two Legs. It's a Paul
Yes.
McCartney centric podcast, and it's none other than Tom Hunyadi. What's up, Tom?
Hello, Joe, Ken, Kit. It's so nice to be able to talk about something than Paul. So I'm really looking forward to talking about
Wow.
this underrated, and I won't say any more than that, but album from the wonderful Ringo Starr.
Oh yeah, well I'll give you my opinions on that as we do the show.
Well, I know, I would hope so.
And although it's a cliche to say it last but not least by any means, we have somebody who's been around doing radio for a long time, decades, and he's has a syndicated radio show, Every Little Thing, his Beatles show. I used to call my cassette tapes Every Little Thing I used to do that when I was a kid. I would like put all stuff together and call it Every Little Thing. I thought I originated it. Maybe I did. I don't know. He also has a YouTube show that you got to check out with amazing interviews on there called Ken Michaels Radio, and he has a podcast. I mean, he's busy as hell, as everybody here is.
Yeah.
Things We Said Today is another podcast that he does. I'm talking about Ken Michaels. Hey, Ken.
Hey, Joe. We have no life.
Hey, if this ain't living, I don't know what is.
This is all we do.
Living the dream.
Leave this room.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, we want to talk more about this, of course, which we will. That's the topic, the old wave topic. But before we do, we're gonna talk to Ken because Ken has a lot of news for us. And Ken, lay it on us. Let us know what's going on in Beatle world.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to remind everybody that since we're recording this on November 28th, tomorrow will mark the 21st anniversary of George Harrison's passing and the 20th anniversary of the Concert for George, which took place at Royal Albert Hall in London. Wonderful concert, one of the greatest concerts ever.
Yep.
Possibly the greatest tribute concert ever. And all over the world. It's not just the United States, but there are select movie theaters that are going to be running the Concert for George, but only tomorrow. And if you want to find out, if you want to see it on the big screen, you can just go to the film's website, concertforgeorge.com. Gives you all the locations, the times when they're going to run. And in some cases, you'll have to order the tickets. They're reserved tickets. But I have a feeling if it's not selling as well as they hoped, you might just be able to go in there and buy the tickets.
Well, I'll tell you, I have my tickets all ready to go. With my nephew and I are supposed to go tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, I'll let you know how it was. Anybody else going here?
I'm going.
Oh, you going? Oh, cool. So we'll talk
Yeah.
about that. And my friend of mine, the reason I'm mentioning it is because a friend of mine wanted to go, and he only have the first row left at this theater, so that's good. So he says he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to get a headache. So he's in the front row, looking like
Look at that. Joe must be in the front row.
No, not me. Not me. No front row for me.
I'll be going. It's showing in New Haven, Connecticut. So my wife
Cool.
and I are going tomorrow night
Nice.
for that. All right, we're going to start off the news with we have to note some passings, major passings in the Beatle world. First, Jeff Wanfor, who directed the Beatles anthology series. In 1997, Jeff won a Grammy Award for Best Music Video for the 8-part series, which chronicled the history of the band. He spent 5 years working on the project, and he found one of the challenges was to interweave interviews from John Lennon, considering he died in 1980. He's quoted as saying, "I hit on the idea of listening to his interviews that were done, getting all the pertinent questions and answers to any year we were doing in the documentary, and then pose the exact same question to the other 3 Beatles. So it looked like the 4 of them were answering the same questions, which of course they were." End of quote there. Wanfor also worked with Paul McCartney on a number of his videos, including directing and producing the documentary In the World Tonight on the making of Paul's Flaming Pie album. He also co-produced the video for Paul's Live at the Cavern Club concert as well. In addition, Wanfor was known for directing the 80s pop show The Tube and a music video for Band Aid 20 in 2004. Jeff Wanfor was 73. Very sad to hear that. And we also mourn the passing of Ken Mansfield. Ken worked in the promotions department at Capitol Records and was in charge of promoting and overseeing the singles and albums. Yep, right there. Last book that Ken put out called The Roof. He oversaw the singles and albums on the Beatles Apple label. He was a guest on Things We Said Today. If you want to listen to that interview, it's show number 290. And I also interviewed him prior to that interview 2 times. He was one of the lucky few that was on the Apple rooftop when the Beatles gave their performance there, also known for wearing a white coat and sitting next to Yoko, Maureen, and Chris O'Dell. After working with the Beatles, Ken worked for Andy Williams' record label, Barnaby Records, and then he worked for MGM Records, also as a record producer, and he worked with various artists who were part of the country outlaw movement. Mansfield wrote several books with Beatles content, including The Beatles, the Bible, and Bodega Bay, A Long and Winding Road. That was in 2000. The White Book, The Beatles, the Bands, the Biz, An Insider's Look at an Era in 2007. And the book that Tom just held up, The Roof, The Beatles' Final Concert, that was in 2018. It was an honor for me to interview him several times. And I highly recommend going to the interview on Things We Said Today. There's also one of my 2 interviews on my website, kenmichaelsradio.com.
Yeah,
Just,
it was a
yeah, go ahead.
it was a treat to meet him at the 2018 White Album Symposium. Got to get a little selfie with him and 5 seconds of his time, and just the nicest guy. It was a treat to listen to him talk during one of the luncheons. And I think our buddy Ken Womack interviewed him for that part, if I'm not mistaken. But great guy, and just was excellent. Very I'm tongue tied right now, but it was just great to hear him speak about his memories of being on the roof and his time working with the Beatles.
Yeah, and I was at that talk as well, and he, just seemed like such a genuinely, nice guy, and showed some really great pictures, as I recall, of inside the Apple offices, and
Right.
and just seemed, even he recognized how lucky he was to be part of all of this and to be up on the rooftop, and I mean, he was a fan too.
Right.
And really showed that. So yeah, it was really a pleasure just to see him at that conference.
Right. Just a few things that always stand out in the interviews that I did with him was that he told me that Paul McCartney was very worried that Hey Jude wasn't going to be successful as a single, mainly because of the fact that it was so long a song.
Right.
And so Ken had to reassure him that it would do well, and he contacted a lot of the big program directors in the US in major markets and sent them copies of Hey Jude ahead of time, and they all loved it. And Ken went back to Paul about that. So there's also that, and John and Yoko showing Ken the front cover of Two Virgins. It was a big shock right there. And we all know that Ringo loves country music. And when Ken was involved with the whole outlaw movement, Ringo actually called Ken up and asked him to mail him vinyl copies of, artists of that time there. Well, they're legends too. Willie Nelson,
Waylon and Willie.
Yeah, people like that. So yeah, really nice guy. An honor to get to meet him several times and interview him. Definitely. Also, November 25th is a holy day for some of us here on this show. It was anyway. For Tom and Joe, it was Record Store Day. And in addition to several Ringo Starr releases, he also released the new Live at the Greek Theater 2019 release. This is a full concert, folks, and makes it very different from most of the live releases that Ringo's put out, which basically are highlights from Ringo's concerts. But whether you get the CD or the DVD or the Blu-ray, it's the full show. It's 24 tracks, 12 from Ringo, 12 from the other all-star band members. And I have listened to the CD. It's fantastic. The sound quality, the mix, the balancing is really so good. And the DVD is as well. It's so expertly done. I interviewed Joe Thomas for my YouTube channel, and he's the producer for the audio and the video. And I was just talking about how there are certain videos, and I think Ringo at the Ryman was like this too. Every single time there's a guitar solo from Steve Lukather, cameras on it. Every time Greg Raleigh is on the keyboards, the Hammond organ, they got the hands right there, the camera's right on it. There's so many great angles, and you get to see Ringo many times solo on the drums, sometimes Ringo sharing the camera with Greg Bissonette. It's so wonderfully produced. And I think anyone would be thrilled to get a copy of this. I definitely recommend the CD, and you can get the DVD, the Blu-ray. There's a 2 CD Blu-ray combo, which I just gave away on my website in a special contest. And I'm also giving away the 2 CD version every week as part of my Beatles trivia.
Excellent.
So also, if you can, check out the interview with Joe Thomas. Also, for Record Store Day, Ringo's Old Wave, just brought up before, came out on CD and the brown smoky vinyl with the bonus track, as
Mhm.
far as we can go, which actually was released, as Joe was talking about before, in 1994. The Right Stuff label put out Old
Yeah.
Wave on CD, as well as Stop and Smell the Roses with bonus tracks. The
Yeah.
one lone bonus track on Old Wave was an earlier version of As Far
Yeah.
as We Go.
But you know what? They're labeled differently on each one. On the 94, it's labeled original version. And then on the one we just got for Record Store Day, it's labeled as early version.
78.
So interesting.
1970.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it being different.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also, didn't you find out that it's Friday Music that put out?
Well, Friday Music did the Ringo the Fourth release.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ringo
So
the
what's-
Fourth one came out also on orange vinyl and a blue vinyl.
And blue.
Right. I was
Yes.
going to say that too. But yeah, but is this remastered? Do you know?
Yes, it says high definition
this is-
remastering, 24-bit 96 KHZ. So I haven't seen any reviews of this yet, so I don't know exactly what they did. But comparing the two over the weekend, I
Mhm.
mean, this one sounds a little flat. This one, I can hear certain things a little bit better. On certain songs, I hear Joe's guitar a little bit better. You know, Ringo's voice. I mean, I can hear, you know, the drumming, bass, the things that we've been usually getting in these remasters, you know, the bass and drums brought up a little bit.
All right.
But that's to my ears. It could be different for somebody else.
I'll have to pick up a copy just because it's remastered.
Right.
All right. More for the collector. And in this case, a very good cause. Ringo Starr is now releasing original limited edition Peace and Love statuettes, which will be sold exclusively at Julian's auctions, with proceeds going to benefit his charity, the Lotus Foundation. Described as life-size hand artworks of Ringo's iconic peace sign, you'll recall that there was an 8-foot-tall, 800-pound stainless steel statue dedicated to him in Beverly Hills. The new Peace and Love collection consists of 500 original numbered limited edition hand artworks. There's 250 that are stainless steel, 250 that are bronze. They are designed and signed by Ringo. They're all housed in a Ringo Peace and Love box, and it's accompanied by a certificate of authenticity.
So
yeah.
So then he is still doing autographs.
Only this way, though.
Yeah.
For a price.
Yeah.
If the price is right.
Yeah.
So it says each life-sized hand artwork features Ringo's iconic peace symbol and his signature greeting and message to the world for the last 5 decades. The stainless steel statue goes for $5,000.
Yeah.
Be your bag of shells.
There we go.
Mr. Uber box set for All Things Must Pass. Come on.
Yeah.
The bronze.
I tell you, I'd like that to get that. Really, I'd like to have that Ringo hand on my shelf. I think that'd be cool, but
Oh, yeah.
it's about
Yeah.
like $4,800 over what I'm willing to spend.
At least you know it's going to charity. It's for a great cause. The bronze ones actually sell for $2,000.
Oh, well,
Mm.
that's a bargain.
So if you're strapped for cash, you can go with the bronze ones. So if you're interested in purchasing this, you can go to juliansauctions.com.
Hmm.
Ringo has made a new video for the song Everyone and Everything, and Ringo's
Yeah.
latest EP, EP3, was just made available on special 10-inch vinyl and limited edition translucent royal blue cassette.
Hmm.
None of you are holding those up.
I didn't get it yet. Yeah.
No.
I didn't get the cassette.
It's coming.
No, yet.
I got it on my Amazon wish list right now.
All right.
But the video's charming. It
Yeah,
really
it's
is. It's
good
a lot
video.
of fun.
It was
Lot of
actually
fun.
directed by Kil Ahrens. He's a pop artist, graphic designer, and director who's also the owner of La La Land Gallery in Los Angeles. Ahrens made a very poignant video for Glenn Campbell's Ghost on the Canvas in 2011. He also oversaw Elton John's video for his new song at the time from the biopic Rocket Man called I'm Gonna Love Me Again with the film star Taron Egerton. The new video for Ringo has him playing drums on the beach, mixed with colorful footage of Ringo from his younger years. And the song, as we know, was written by Linda Perry.
Yep, and look for a little cameo by her. You can see it at one point, and a
Mhm.
giant cat.
Did one of Ken Womack's cats make it in the video?
Yeah, right. Exactly. There you go.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. No, wouldn't surprise me either. They get around.
Okay, this will be news to many of you. And I can't say thank you enough to John Bazzini and to Jeff Smillian to learn about a new song from the band Exploring Birdsong. The song is called Ever the Optimist, and it was co-written by Paul McCartney. The band explains, this song certainly has the most interesting backstory to any of the tracks we've written. When in university back in 2018, Linz and Matt from the band were given the opportunity to have a one-on-one songwriting session with Sir Paul McCartney. This is the song they took into the session and worked on with Sir Paul himself. It's by far the poppiest song on the record and was the catalyst for centering our songs around synths, as well as soul piano parts. I've listened to it. Doesn't sound like anything that you would ever think Paul has written. This is pretty much a progressive rock band, but you can find it on YouTube. And if you do go to it, it doesn't have Paul's name listed as a songwriter. So it could have been one of those examples, like Chris Engelhart talked about when we interviewed him, where a Beatle makes a contribution,
Right.
doesn't take any credit for it.
Well, we all know how much he loves birds, and you know, you can just tell by all the, the different birds that are in his song titles.
Yep.
That's what sold him on working with this band.
Yes, there you go.
So again, the band is called Exploring Birdsong, and the song is Ever the Optimist. Also, we get a lot of news here from our listeners. Aren't they the best?
Yes, they are.
And
Yeah.
John Bazzini too. Special thanks to our listener, Tim Ottaway. We learned that a documentary has been made on the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival show, better known to many fans as Live Peace in Toronto, now to be called Revival 69, the concert that rocked the world. This documentary has been 6 years in the making. It tells the story how concert promoter John Brower put his life on the line to turn his failing Toronto Rock and Roll Revival into a one-day event. With dismal ticket sales, the concert was nearly canceled, but Brower took a 1 in a million chance and invited John Lennon, who said yes, which propelled the concert into a massively successful event. The concert was performed at the University of Toronto's Varsity Stadium in front of 20,000 fans. Other acts on the bill included Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Bo Diddley, Gene Vincent, The Doors, and Alice Cooper. Viewers of the documentary will see unreleased concert and backstage footage shot by D.A. Pennebaker. And shortly after performing there, John announced to the other Beatles that he was leaving the group. This new documentary will open in theaters in select cities in Canada.
Yeah.
No word about the United States, but in Canada, and that will be on December the 16th. The film will be released on video on demand in Canada on January 3rd next year. All right. We're almost done, folks. I promise.
Right.
A very big Beatles landmark has been destroyed. And that being the Deauville Hotel in Miami Beach. The Beatles performed there for the Ed Sullivan Show, drawing an estimated audience of 70 million people. And President Kennedy gave a speech there for the Young Democrats Convention in 1961. Other celebrities that performed there include Frank Sinatra, Tom Jones, and Sammy Davis Jr. The hotel fell into disrepair and abandonment in recent years. It was closed in 2017 after an electrical fire. Miami Beach officials and the family that owned the hotel sparred over millions of dollars in fines for various code violations. And you could actually see there were explosions done to the hotel. That was captured on video for that. But a major landmark right there, the Deauville Hotel is gone. Again, I want to remind everybody the Concert for George showing in movie theaters tomorrow. Go to concertforgeorge.com for that. And I also want to let you know, don't know if I mentioned this on this show. I know we brought it up on things we said today. Michael Lindsay Hogg, Jonathan Clyde, and Rob Sheffield will be taking part in a conversation with Joe Scarborough from MSNBC. He is the co-host of Morning Joe with Mika Brzezinski, his wife, and they'll be doing a show at the Paley Center for the Arts in New York City on December the 7th at 6:30 p.m. I'm sure talking a lot about the Let It Be film and anything Michael Linscott, writer video, Rainbow, all that. And I know Joe Scarborough from watching him mornings with my wife. Is a huge Beatle fan. So I'm sure this is going to be a big thrill for him. And a reminder that the Grammy Museum in Newark, in New Jersey, has a Beatles exhibit called Ladies and Gentlemen, the Beatles, running now through June the 25th. And Ken Womack has been the curator for this and interviewed May Pang earlier, a few weeks ago. He will be interviewing my colleague on things we said today, Alan Kozin, and Adrian Sinclair for the new McCartney book, The McCartney Legacy. And that will be on December 14th, which is the day after the book comes out. All right. And also we should say, and we've heard this from reliable sources, but this is unofficial, okay? There's a very good chance that the Ringo album from 1973 will be coming out in an archival box set sometime next year. It will be the 50th anniversary for that album. And I'd like to see archival box sets for, all of Ringo's albums from his solo career. But if anyone's going to be done first, probably that would be the one.
Right.
So let's cross our fingers and hope that
Oh,
that
yeah.
happens
Got them
Very
all
exciting.
crossed.
next year.
Yep.
And if you would want any more of them, you'd have to buy this one. So if it's not successful, we wouldn't get any more.
Good
Which is
point.
a shame.
It's like Tom and Joe and get 10 versions of it, and that would really.
Thank
Right
you,
now,
Ken.
you have more versions than I do. I don't even have the Ringo 2019 Greek Theater. Couldn't find it. The album I have, but I don't have the CD or the DVD or the Blu-ray. Gotta
Okay.
find that.
Well,
Mm.
it's out there and you can always order it on Amazon. So,
Yeah.
and before we start talking about Old Wave, everybody reminded me before the show, we never talked about the McCartney singles box set. Sometimes I get confused with these old podcasts, what I've covered.
Mm.
But yeah, you guys want to talk about it? This is a major release. Well,
Yes.
I still say it's for the collector.
Well,
because only
I think it is
3,000
too.
copies were made. And what was the cost? It's over $600.
Yeah.
it was $6.99, I believe it was, or $5.99, $6.99, one of the two.
Right.
But yeah, I was very excited. Ken, if you remember, we did that crossover series with you and Darren during when we did your show, and then you guys came over and did our show, and we talked about things we wanted from each camp. And one of the things that I picked was a singles collection from McCartney. So I can't tell you how excited I was when I finally heard that. But however, then going into the camp where we're never satisfied, Paul obviously has more than 80 singles. Okay, so there's some singles that were left out. But that what are you gonna do? It's still the 80 of his best singles. Yeah, Eat at Home was left out. Freedom was left out. Off the Ground was left out. They did something pretty clever. They took the two singles from Liverpool Oratorio and they made an EP out of it. Both songs from each are short enough to where you could do that. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That they put
Yeah.
in.
And they didn't include something that I really enjoy that not a lot of people know about, and that's a song called "The Honorary Consul" that Paul McCartney wrote for a film, and John Williams, not that John Williams, but the guitarist John Williams,
Yes.
played it. So few things missing. That's okay. Meat Free Monday, huh? Remember that one? That's not in there either.
Thank God.
Well, we talked about this on things we said today. How do you know what singles to pick when he released different singles in different countries?
Right.
Something like Band on the Run had a different B-side. In UK, it had Zoo Gang, and that's not on
Yeah,
there.
but
Things like that. What is the B-side? What is the B-side that should go with the A-side?
right.
And there are some key songs like, and I realized probably why he didn't put it on there is because it wasn't a single from Paul McCartney's catalog, but something like The Girl Is Mine.
Mhm.
Come on, number 2 hit. major
Right.
hit. None of the songs with Kanye West are
Right.
on there, you know, and Paul's
Yeah.
name is on there on the single.
True.
I think I'd rather have a
I
Meat
think,
Free Monday song.
yeah, I think he wants to distance himself from Kanye right now. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, good point.
But
Good
I
point.
also happy that they're including the Love Is Strange, I Am Your Singer,
Yeah.
45, which was, as we all know, or hopefully all we all know, was a proposed single for
Right.
Wildlife,
Of
and
course.
that's really cool that they're adding that as well.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
great
But
idea.
yeah.
You know, again, it's when you're putting out something like this, limited edition, it's really geared towards the collector.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Ken. I think it's geared towards the collector too, you know, and I pre-ordered mine. But I got to say, I get a kick, and I've heard it a lot in comments and things. People saying, "Well, I'll download the songs," and I'm like, "That's not the point of this. This
Mhm.
particular thing is to have a physical box with the singles in there and the picture sleeves and all the different 7-inch
Mhm.
records. Yeah, the music, sure, by all means, listen to it and download it. But you could have done that years ago. I mean, that you know, what I mean, it's not you could download that anytime. It has nothing to do with this
Uh-huh.
release. You know,
Not only that, nobody's saying this, but when information leaked out about this and we saw all the contents, it said remastered.
Mhm.
All these songs that haven't come out in the archival box sets yet.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
there's remastered songs from Press to Play, from Off the
Right.
Ground. So that means work has been done.
Yes.
You know, it's just a question of when is it going to come out.
And right. I know we
Yeah.
all wanted Back to the Egg in London Town. I know that, but
we'll get
and
it.
then
We'll
in
get them.
this, yeah, we'll get them.
Yeah.
But it's good to see. It's encouraging to see that during on the London Town and Back to the Egg songs that are in here that they are 2022 remasters. So,
Right.
hopefully that means from the original analog tapes and all that stuff, and not just digital. But it's encouraging to see that work has been done, Ken, like you said, to your point. And then hopefully that goes on with the other stuff that's missing in the archives as well into the 80s and 90s, hopefully.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, and for collectors, this is fantastic. And great if you're getting it. Fantastic. It's just, it's a little pricey for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would care more about having the B-sides and that kind of thing. I mean, the sleeve, the reproductions of the sleeves look great. Look beautiful. And I like that they're from different countries and that kind of thing. So I definitely see the appeal. I definitely do. But but I think I'm saving my dollars for the next archive sets, and I'm really excited to hear. I think Paul said in the introduction, more to come.
More to
Right.
come.
So
Yep.
so
Yeah.
that is very, very encouraging.
Yes.
But it's been several years now since
Yeah.
Flaming
Yeah.
Pie.
Mhm.
Well, he did. I remember seeing somewhere where he was talking to Danny Harrison about box sets coming out and whatever. And he had told Danny or gave him some advice in this regards to make him wait. So he's obviously making us wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he is.
There are plenty of times when he put out archival box sets one year after another.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there wasn't that much of a
What's
wait.
Right.
True.
I mean, I don't understand what the slowdown is now, but obviously there's other things that are important to him to
Yeah,
get
a
out. I
lot.
think this is a great release. This is a great career spanning
I mean, come on. How much
release.
stuff have we had? I mean, between
Not everybody
Beatles-wise,
has
too.
these 45s though. I mean, there's some younger fans that do have some money that they can, dish out. And I'm hopefully if they're getting this instead of, also going on eBay and picking out, all of these singles from all over the world, like I'm doing anyways,
Uh-huh.
The ones you're getting are the real ones.
That's the
Yes,
thing.
yes,
They're real.
right.
Yeah,
The real McCoy.
They're not the fake
Yeah.
ones.
that's
No.
right.
All
Oh,
right.
well.
So that's it for the news.
All right. Thank you, Ken.
Hmm?
All right. So, are we ready to start our Ringo show? Once again, to reiterate, if you didn't see the top of the show, didn't hear the top of the show, yeah, the Old Wave album is an album that was elusive for a long time. because it came out in 1983, but it didn't come
Mhm.
out in the UK and it didn't come out in the United States. It came out in Germany on the Bellafon label, came out on RCA in Canada, also released in Australia, Brazil, Japan, a few places, other places. But the UK and the US never got Old Wave until 1994 on CD. Was it The Right Stuff? The
The right
name,
stuff.
Right
the
stuff.
Right
Yeah.
Stuff, CD came out for Old Wave. So this has always been a collectible in a way. And that's one thing on the other side of the coin. It's fantastic that everybody can get this now. Hey, if you couldn't get Old Wave, you have it now on vinyl, CD, whatever you want. But in a way, I kind of feel just a small part of me like, it was always cool saying, hey, I snagged a copy of Old Wave from Germany. I got a copy of it. You know, now it's a little more common, but at least a lot of fans can hear it and will make their decision as to what they think of it. Because when we do this series here, another listen, as I say, it's a series where these are albums that sometimes get forgotten, maligned, not as much love, outright disliked,
Mm.
different things, and not as commonly hailed as a lot of other things. So that's why we're going to visit this tonight. And also, we thought we would do it because of the Black Friday release that just came out. What better time to do this? All right. A little more history about Old Wave. It's produced by Joe Walsh, and I think Russ Ballard also
Yes.
produced some.
Mhm.
Recorded at Tittenhurst in 1982. Tittenhurst, John Lennon's home, and he had a recording studio there, I should say, which he sold to Ringo. Ringo purchased it from John, that place, in 1973. And I think he added to the studio, or redid this recording studio, Ringo, to do this. And we have Ringo on drums, Joe Walsh on guitar, Mo Foster on bass, Gary Brooker, Procol Harum, and Chris Stanton on keyboards. And you know, Ringo was in trouble at this time because he needed to find a new label. And the problem was that no major UK or US record label was interested in signing him on. So, but he was determined to do this, and I think the album almost was going to appear on Boardwalk, Neil Bogart,
Right.
because Neil Bogart
Mhm.
had like Joan Jett on there, and
Mhm.
Ringo's previous album, Stop and Smell the Roses, was on Bogart's Boardwalk Records. But unfortunately, Neil Bogart passed away, and Ringo had to find a label. And so this is why, for so many years, we never got really a common release of it. And then we didn't hear of Ringo anymore. After 1983, the next studio album that he had was 9 years later with the excellent Time Takes Time.
Mhm.
And all right, so let's talk a little about this album. But the first thing that I want to say is when I always collected these things as they were new, I always have like a story I like to share about like what I remember, or any of us remembers if we got something when it was first released.
Mhm.
This one, I don't remember a thing. I mean, I didn't get it in 1983. I don't remember the first time I got a copy of it. So I can't tell you when I first heard it. I don't even remember. And there's a good reason for me why, too. I don't remember it, which I'll talk about later. But Ken, I thought I would ask you, because we're in the same ballpark as far as ages. And I thought, do you have any memory when this actually came out first? Did you hear it right away, or what was the
Yes.
story?
I feel very lucky that I mentioned this a few times. For 3 years, I worked at a record store on Long Island from 1980 through 83. It's the same record store I worked at the night that John was killed. Um, and something like Old Wave, I would have found out about either through Beatles Fan Magazine or Beatles Monthly, just to know that it was coming out. There's no other way you can find out about these things. It wouldn't even be in the local papers, something like this, unfortunately. But I do remember we got a copy. The store I worked at was Record World, and it was a great music chain which was in business for quite a while. And I worked in Roosevelt Field on Long Island. I lived on Long Island most of my life. Roosevelt Field was the biggest mall on Long Island, and that store did tremendous business. And I was told it was the biggest, most successful in terms of money, generating money and sales on Long Island. And we got copies of Old Wave, and we put it up on the wall when it first came out. So I had no trouble finding it, and I grabbed it as soon as it came out.
And I went to that store, by the way.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what happened then. I didn't remember getting it.
Ken got all the copies before
Yeah,
you.
he bought them all.
I said Ken got all the copies before you got there, Joe.
Yeah.
But no, I had no trouble getting it, and so I knew it instantly when it first came out.
All right. Now I know Tom, will go to you next, because I know some stuff you didn't hear till later, and then Kid
Right.
also. What's your first exposure to Old Wave?
First exposure wasn't from Old Wave, but it was from this guy, Starstruck, Volume 2, which had a few tracks from there, In My Car and She's About to Move Her and Hopeless. For some of them, I think there's 4 tracks total from that album on here. And those were, those 3 tracks that I just named were some of my favorites from this. So I was like really, looking forward to eventually trying to get the album. Fast forward to 2001, 2002. That's when I finally found this version, the Right Stuff version, out of print. So I did pay a little bit more for it. I think I paid probably like $20-$30 for it, because it was out of print. So then I got it, and I just remember still liking those 3 songs, but then unfortunately not caring much for the rest of it, and until hearing it again. Fast forward into 2022, but we'll get more into that later. But yeah, it was first a few tracks from the Starstruck CD, and then eventually in the early 2000s I found that. So that was my story.
Okay, Kid, how about you? Oh, go ahead.
Something I forgot to mention before, because I was talking about the record store I worked at, Record World, and one of the great things about that store is that they carried imports.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And so that's a big reason why they got Old Wave.
Yeah.
I had my copy was on RCA, so that was from Canada. So we got it that way. So very lucky to work there.
Yeah, I'm trying. I don't. I wish I could remember. I don't think I had it. I went to stores like that sold imports and TSS sometimes. I don't know if they were still around then. TSS then, but they had imports. I mean, I used to get imports. I don't remember getting that till a long time later. Excuse me. So, Kid, how about you? What's your history?
Yeah.
Or is this it now? New.
Yeah.
The new release.
Yeah, definitely. I did not get it in '83. I got it. So you guys said the Right Stuff one came out in '94.
Yeah.
Probably that's when I got it. I was I used to get a catalog. I think it was called Collector's Choice. I think that's what it was called, and it was a mail order catalog, and it had all these rare editions of different CDs, and I don't remember. I assume they had vinyl. I don't remember, but I know they had CDs and all. And they had a special deal on Stop and Smell the Roses and Old Wave.
Oh.
And the Right Stuff. It was on the Right Stuff label, and they said these had just been reissued, but made it out that these were 2 extremely rare albums. And that these were, limited edition, probably, would go out of print momentarily. And so you better pick these up. And so, of course, by that time, I was pretty hardcore Beatles, and my Ringo collection, though, was pretty lacking. So when I saw that, I thought, well, hell, I guess I have to get these. And so I didn't know a thing about the albums. I mean, I'd heard of them. I wasn't completely clueless about them, but I thought, well, gosh, if they're that rare, I better get them. And so I did. And it was like a special deal they were having. I mean, it wasn't like buy one get one free, but if you got both of them together, there was like a little discount or something. And so I did. So I got those Right Stuff editions, and we'll go in depth in a minute. But I will say, yeah, I mean, both of them, when I heard them were, not really what I was expecting, and I was kind of on them at the time, but I was glad to get them because at the time I thought they were extremely rare. So, and now I'm feeling a little better because Tom, you said you ended up paying a little more for, for the Right Stuff. So maybe they were right.
Got the right stuff.
Yeah.
You got the right stuff.
Yeah.
I liked Stop and Smell the Roses right from when it was released. I liked that album. It's still one of my favorite Ringo albums. Old Wave, I never liked it. And in recent years on my channel, when I talk about it, I have to say I'm trying to decide which is the worst or least, but I call Ringo very near the bottom for me. Old Wave, Ringo's Old Wave, this album. So I was really interested in listening to it again because I haven't heard it. It's got to be at least 10 years, and I know that because I remember where I was listening to it, and I was like bored out of my wits, and I didn't like it at all again. And that was before I moved here, so that's why I figure it's about 10 years or so. But I have some things I like to share when it's my turn. But Ken, even though you said you heard it, do you recall? I don't remember you telling us either what your first impressions were in general of it.
It's kind of similar to what I've said before about a lot of Ringo albums. Ringo got into a mindset where all of his albums had 10 tracks, 5 songs on side 1, 5 songs on side 2, and usually the first side is really good. And the second one has a couple of good songs, and you get the feeling of let's wrap it up. And that's kind of, seriously, I mean,
no, yeah, I get you.
Every solo Beatles album has worthwhile material on it. And in a way, when we did our show, Rack Our Brains, Ringo title there, just recently, and one of our listeners asked, what do you think is the worst solo Beatle album? It's really hard for me to even think about that because every single one of them has got some really strong material on it. There isn't one that I've ever regretted buying at all. And it's hard for me to say what the worst is. I never really thought in those terms, but I actually said Old Wave probably because you said it, Joe. And mainly because of the fact that I was a little bit disappointed that it ended with 2 instrumentals. And, sometimes we don't show enough respect for instrumentals. We feel, not enough effort was put behind it. We think less of it because, it doesn't have lyrics. Some people do feel that way. Maybe it was a little bit of a letdown there because the album ended that way. And I always kind of felt that side 2 was weaker than side 1. But there's still a lot of good stuff on here. And the first side, I think, is dynamite. There's no doubt about it. And
I can agree with you on this revisitation. I definitely like side 1 overall better than side 2, although to me there's not much dynamite stuff on here. But we'll go through it and see. Let's start. I want to start with the first single, "In My Car," right? Which was, where was it? Did that come out?
Germany.
Germany.
Yeah.
I had it written down. It's on the other side, and the B side was, I don't have it in front of me now. As far as we can go was the B side of Germany, and then in Mexico there was a single, "I Keep Forgetting," and "She's About a Mover" was the B side. All right, but since the first single was "In My Car," I thought the way I would start this off was, let's just talk about that because a lot of people tell me they really like that song, and it is the first single, so let's just go for that. And I'll go around. Kit, what do you have to say about "In My Car"?
Well, you're going to hear me say this a lot tonight about many of the songs on this album, which is sort of like, it's fine. I mean, it's just, to me, kind of like what you were previewing there, Joe. They're fine. They're just like nothing memorable. I mean, I just felt
Show's
like,
over. That's it.
yeah. Good night, everybody.
Queen has spoken.
Yeah. I mean, with a couple of exceptions, I mean, I didn't hate it. I just don't, there really weren't any songs, and this is a prime example that just really stick with me. I think the opening synth kind of put me off at the beginning. I mean, it kind of reminded me of the beginning of, I think it was
Wake Up My Love.
Thank you, Wake Up My Love. That's exactly what I was thinking.
You're still in my thunder, Kit.
But it is, doesn't it make you think of that? And
Yes,
and
it sure
normally,
does.
and not to tick you off, Ken, but because I love 80s music. I love it. I grew up with it. That's my heart.
Me too. Yeah,
But
me too.
that synth really dates it, and it really,
There's
to
that word,
me,
Ken. Let's go.
I'm
You
sorry.
together.
I'm sorry. That's why I was apologizing in advance. It just really, as opposed to one or two others on here, it just dates it very much for me. I mean, you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that's an 80s track, and not in a good way in this case. And I'll be saying this again on other songs. The band is great. I love this band I mean, Mo Foster, hell of a bassist. Ringo's voice is in great shape on this record. I mean, despite what he was going through at the time. I mean, considering, I mean, he was still in a pretty bad place in his life, and yet his voice sounds great. But it's just, to me, it's just not a memorable song.
Well,
so.
I'm good. I'll jump in there at this point with that, because I mean, I just think a lot of people do say they like it. When I talk to a lot of fans, to me, it's just like you kind of said, it's unremarkable. It's there. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I don't listen to this and say, "Oh, it's a terrible song." It's okay, but I always love to tell the joke. So let me get my fingers ready. You get your finger ready, and you're like, "All right, dun 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 dun." Dun, 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 dun. Come on, no, but you know,
Yes.
I'll bounce off you, giving some compliments where they're due. I think Ringo's voice is pretty good here in this album.
Yes.
I prefer the albums before. A lot of people, they knock Bad Boy, and of course, and they knock Ringo the Fourth. A lot of people think Ringo the Fourth is the worst. I see lists sometimes of all the solo Beatle albums, and they have Ringo the Fourth on the bottom. I like those, and Rotogravure also. I like those three of the '70s better than I do Old Wave, but I think Ringo's voice is more up to it on this one.
I agree 100%.
But the song's just okay for me. So as far as the dated thing goes, no offense, I rarely find myself saying that. Occasionally, I'll catch myself. I say, stop that, because I'm not even sure what we mean when we say that, because it was made in the '80s, therefore it sounds '80s.
Right.
Yeah. I don't listen to it in the still of the night and say, oh, it's so '50s.
Yeah, true.
I don't do that, but I don't know. There's just something about it though when it's a sound.
It just bothers you. Yeah.
Just from that time, but hey, it's okay. I don't dislike it. The song. So that's In My Car. Now, Tom, how about you with In My Car?
Well, Kid said a lot of what I was going to say, but I'll tell you what, I do like this song a lot more than you, Joe, and Kit. I will, however, I wish it just opened with the guitar riff. I'm not the biggest fan of the opening synth. Whatever. I don't think it makes it any less, better. I still enjoy this song quite a bit. I think it's a good opener, but yeah, the opening synth was a little bit of a letdown. However, there is a nice little bit from Joe Walsh where he does his, In My Car towards the end of a little backing vocals from him, which I like. But yeah, I mean, I really dig Joe playing on this, and the band, like you said, Kit, the band is top notch on this song, I think. So I definitely think it's a good opening track.
Okay. Well, it's good as an opener, I think. It's funny, we just Kid and I are talking about the intro, but yeah, it works as an opener to me anyway. Where are you going to put that in the middle or at the end?
True.
Okay, Ken, what do you think? In My Car, The
I
symphony.
think it's a killer opener. And it's certainly a very memorable song because after a couple of listens, I know exactly how it goes. And I do agree with all of you that this is a killer band. I love the way everything is mixed on here. I don't care at all about whether a song sounds dated or not. I love the sound of the 80s. I love synthesizers. I love heavy drums. I love sounds of all the different decades. It doesn't matter one bit to me. I don't just automatically think, oh, it screams 80s. You know, there's so much great music that I listen to that people would say is dated. There are some people who think some stuff from the Beatles sounds dated, and it has no bearing as to whether or not I like it or not. So I don't really care when you say that the synthesizer sounds dated to you, because I like that sound. Not everything has to be all guitar oriented.
Yeah.
So
Oh, no, I agree with that.
Mm.
I like variety there. And it should also be noted that Joe Walsh himself recorded his own version of In My Car.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was on his album called Got Any Gun. And I kind of
Yeah.
wished that when Ringo toured with Joe, since they both recorded the same song and they're both in the band,
Right.
they both co-wrote it together.
Yeah.
It would have
Makes
sounded
sense.
great if they had done that. Yeah. And Joe's version did get some airplay on rock radio at the time, but I think it's a great song. It's got a great hook there. I love that, even though you made fun of the notes there, Joe. It
Well,
stays
it's just
it
it's
stays in
simple. I mean,
my
simple
brain.
sometimes is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a lot of simple stuff. Beatles' early songs, so many of them are simple,
Yeah.
but just, I don't know, just something about it.
Yeah.
I expect a little more, I guess, out of Joe Walsh maybe for that. But I don't. I think I heard his version at some point. I
Mhm.
remember liking it better. I think when I
Mhm.
heard it, but it's been I haven't heard it that much that I really recall it. In and of itself, but I remember hearing it once, thinking, "Oh, I like that one better." But I want to talk about all kinds of tracks here. Let's leave it open in general. But I thought again before I do that, there's another song I thought we'd do separately. Uh, it's the ballad, "As Far as We Can Go," um, and this is a song that there are two versions of.
Mhm.
And of course, if you get the new CD, and is it on the vinyl? The two?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
it's on the
is.
vinyl.
Mhm.
It's on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
vinyl. Yeah. He did the vocals in '78. It's the same vocal as I
Yeah.
understand it.
Right.
It's the backing that Joe Walsh changed on Old Wave, made it different on Old Wave. Then they give you the so-called original or early version or 1978 version,
Mhm.
which I never gave that much of a listen. The original, the earlier one, and I listened to it closely this time because I wanted to compare the two, and that's what I wanted to discuss a little bit. If you've heard both of them, let's put it this way. As far as we can go, I never liked that at all. It's by Russ Ballard.
Mhm.
I never liked it. I thought it was real a weak tea as far as a ballad goes. Uh, and it took a long time. It's one of those songs, I guess. If you're going to put in the time to some songs and listen enough, don't anybody say anything out there to me about Pet Sounds, because I gave it enough to listen. Uh, I'm notorious for that. But because it's Ringo and I'm interested in the Beatles, I go back to things more than I would ordinarily. Now, what I'm trying to say is, I appreciated it this time when I was listening to it. For the first, I'm starting to appreciate As Far as We Can Go
Hmm.
as a decent ballad on there. And uh, the one that was on Old Wave, or the main version we'll call it, that's from Old Wave, it has a lot of kind of, dare I say, over the top background instrumentation. I guess what Joe Walsh
Yeah.
Mhm.
contributed to it. I think it's more like that. It's nice though. It's over the top, but it's nice. But when I played the '78 version, the early version, I think I like that better. A little simple, a little simpler. And Ringo's voice is the same. You know. I got to like it now after listening to it again, especially the early '78 version. And I no longer do that little bit that I used to do. People talk. Yes, I think they know. I'm sure it must show. I used to be like, write me a song. Like that's how I used to
Yeah.
feel about it. I used to feel like, it's like some kid writing a song.
Yeah.
But I like it now. Is the main thing. It took a while. It can be done, folks. It can happen. So now I'm going to leave it to all of you. I'm going to start this time with. Let's go with Tom first this time. Tom, what do you have to say about as far as we can go?
Well, our inside joke about Over the Top, right? So this must be the Al Pacino song of the album, right?
Yeah.
But that's just between Joe and I. But
Whoa.
listen, yeah, you guys can get the Rotten Tomatoes out and throw them at me if you want, but I am not the biggest fan of Ringo singing ballads. And even some of his best songs that people love, I am not. Even King of Broken Hearts, When I Walk with You, I am not the biggest fan of his vocals on those songs, to be honest with you. However, this is a charming little song, I think. But I also think it would have been better if someone who is a better ballad singer sang the song. But not saying that it's a terrible song, because it is a decent song. And Ringo does fine. And I think what Kit and Joe made the points about him in fine voice, in this time when he is, battling substances, right? I mean, we've heard him sing not so well on other songs in the past, while he's also had these substance issues as well. But this is an okay song. It's, I don't think I like it any more or any less than when I first heard it years ago. But I'm glad it's here. I'm glad we have this bonus track on here. So I hope there's people out there that do like it. Like, Joe, it's gained stature for you, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
That's why we do these shows.
Never gonna be. I'm sure that
Yeah.
it must
Right.
show. But
Right.
I don't think that I'm no singer. Look, Ringo is
Right.
Pavarotti compared to me. I'm just saying. And I like Ringo singing, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ken.
I happen to really love this song. And contrary to what Tom just said, I love when Ringo does ballads, especially going back to something like Good Night with the Beatles, or Easier for Me from Goodnight Vienna, Gave It All Up, or those songs. I really, I love the sound of his voice. I love melancholy, and I think Ringo's voice fits that very well. He doesn't have a great range, and we all know that, but if it's written in the right range for him, it can work for him. And that's how I feel about this song. I do disagree about, what you said, Joe. I like the more modern version, the old way version of this, much more so than the earlier version, because the earlier version to me goes on way too long. It really had to be trimmed. And one thing you didn't point out was that in the earlier version, there's another verse in there, which wasn't used in the version that was in Old Wave. I really like all the different synthesizers and whatnot that was used in it. I think it really works in this particular song. I enjoy when Ringo does all these sad songs. I think
I'm good with that.
Very suitable for it, about a relationship that didn't work,
Yeah, and in the backing, you like the backing really accommodates the song. It suits the song well for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also, you mentioned Joe Walsh a lot, but probably Russ Ballard had a lot to do with the production of this. And you notice that he's like a co-producer with Joe Walsh on this album.
True.
And Russ Ballard, we should mention that he's got quite a resume. He was an Argent, the band Argent, and he's the one that sang "Hold Your Head Up" and
"Hold Your Head Up."
I like that song.
Great song.
God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and a whole
should have
bunch
put it on here. Hold Your Head Up.
I'm trying to think. Winning from Santana, he helped write.
Good song too.
For America, You Can Do Magic. He's got a lot of songs on his resume that were hits. So, he's in good company there with Russ Ballard. Kind of wish he did more with him.
Somebody, Farrell McNulty points out, I was curious what Tom said, 6 O'Clock was one of Ringo's best ballads. Does that work for you, Tom, that one?
When he sings the chorus, when he sings the chorus, I think it's great. You know,
Just the chorus?
again, just he does a great job with that. Again, it's just to my ears, he's just not the best balladeer. I'm just going to
Does it
say
help
that.
with Paul and Linda being in there singing to the chorus?
Listen, anybody could have wrote this for Ringo. It's a great song.
I
though.
got you.
It's a terrific song, and I think it's the best thing Paul wrote for him.
Yeah, I got you. I respect that. I can understand you. Okay, Kit, you're up.
Yep.
What do you think?
Well, first of all, I like Ringo's sad country songs. I think he does a good job with that. I like those sad country songs. And secondly, I'll add another song to the Russ Ballard list that I really like. If those of you who were fellow Miami Vice fans back in the day, he had a great song called Voices that was used in one of the, I think it was an early episode, and this great rock song. And I remember it was when Crockett and Tubbs were going across, like they were riding in this, like, speedboat across the water, and for a long time they played the song Voices. It's an awesome song if you want to look it up. That's Russ Ballard, and that's him singing too. I mean, that's he didn't just write it. So anyway, awesome song as well. Anyway, so back to this. Again, it's okay. I think I'm with you, Ken. I like the newer version better. I like the sense. I mean, the earlier version is okay, but I don't know. I found the drums and all were kind of not necessary. I thought just having the keys, but it was complimentary to the lyrics. However, I kind of agree with you, Joe, that at times they were a little over the top. I mean, like when it went into this sort of pseudo classical kind of moment and almost this Baroque kind of sound, I just kind of thought, okay, now you're just showing off. This is getting a little over the top, and is this really necessary? But yeah, I mean, as far as the song goes, I mean, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot. It's fine. It's just not. To me, it's just not that memorable a ballad, and maybe Tom, part of it is that Ringo just doesn't have, except for country, a great ballad voice in a way, and maybe if somebody else was singing this, maybe we'd feel differently. I don't know, but for me, yeah, it just wasn't. It just doesn't really stay in the memory very much.
I was just thinking, happened to a bit of my notes that I'd forgotten about. From a source I looked up, said that the working title and the original title planned for this was "It Beats Sleep." And I tell you, the good thing it wasn't called. I like the title "Old Wave," by the way, but
yes.
I don't know about it beating sleep in some cases.
Did you read? Did you know? Do you know where the title "Old Wave" came from?
New Wave. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Barbara's daughters, made the comment that is this old wave?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't know that she came up with it.
Yeah.
But I heard that the play on New Wave.
The play on, yeah.
Well, being that there's only 10 tracks, I mean, usually we don't go track by track, but I mean, what other way is there to do this? Let's talk about the song. Going back to side one, the second song, "Hopeless." That's one of the songs I enjoy off this, and because it's completely zany and off the wall and ridiculous fun. I think, and it's totally tongue in cheek, and Ringo's having a blast, and that's one of the songs that I do like on the album, "Hopeless." So I'm done with this. Okay, Ken, how about you with "Hopeless"?
Well, yeah, I love that one. To me, it's kind of like son of "Oh My My." It's very bouncy and up tempo and humorous, and both songs deal with doctors. And it's got one of my favorite lines in a Ringo song. I said,
I think I'm
seeing double, and how are both?
How are both you?
How are both of you?
It's very catchy, and I love all the guitar work in there from Joe Walsh. It's
Yeah. Good. Thank you for that. Yeah, good guitar.
would have worked as a single in the first half of the 70s for Ringo.
Yeah.
One thing that I come across here with this entire album is that I think Ringo and Joe Walsh work really well together.
Yes.
Mm.
Something about their styles, and maybe at times because Joe Walsh does a lot of slide guitar work, and at times some of what he does, not all of it, kind of reminds me of George Harrison. But I just feel like the two of them, when they write together, it just sounds very natural. And I'm talking about not only this album, but whenever Joe appears on Ringo's albums later on and writes something with him, like Gotta Get Up to Get Down, something like
Yeah.
that,
Hmm.
in the blanks. I really like the two of them working together. I wish they did more. And production wise, like I said, it really sounds very well mixed. And I just think they're a really good team, you know.
And as you said, they wrote together "Hopeless," Starkey and,
Mhm.
and Joe Walsh, and they wrote together a lot on this album. Okay, now "Hopeless," Kit.
When you think of hopeless, you think of me.
I didn't
Um,
mean it that way. Oh my God.
I'm kidding you. I'm
Ugh,
kidding you.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
joking. It was just too perfect.
You-
I had to do it. I'm kidding, Joe.
I'm only a little hopeless because he didn't pick.
Kid.
all right.
I'm kidding.
I
I'm
know.
kidding.
I know. Edit.
It
No.
was just funny. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is an example of the band is great.
Mhm.
Love the band, and the band really cooks on this. Keyboards, fantastic. Joe Walsh's guitar, I mean, you can pick that out a mile away. I mean, it's just that classic searing Joe Walsh guitar. The lyrics, I mean, I guess I'll rethink my position on the lyrics, because at first when I heard it, I'm like, these are really stupid lyrics. But, I guess you're right, that they're supposed to be. And not that I expect Ringo to sing deadly serious lyrics. That's not his personality, so I wasn't expecting that. But, now that you guys are talking about it, maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on the lyrics, because I mean, at first I just thought these lyrics are pretty ridiculous, and
But I don't
they,
mind it when it's supposed to be. The whole thing's supposed to be a complete farce.
yeah,
That's fine with me.
So
But look how serious it is when he's singing as far as we could go. I mean, that's
right.
pretty serious.
Oh, sure, and he's capable of being serious. I don't mean that he never is, but for me, I guess the lyrics kind of got in the way. But as I said, the band is, I mean, this band is just top notch, and on here, to me, they really show how good they are. I mean, just some good rock. But again, I mean, just not one of my favorite Ringo tracks. But as you said, it sounds like he's having fun on this track, and certainly with those silly lyrics, you can have some fun. He can have some fun with it.
But you're going. But I can't say it. But you're going out. But I said at the beginning. Buggy Yugi Mau Mau, Buggy Yugi Mau Mau. It's hopeless.
Yeah, I mean,
Everybody dance.
And
I like that too.
Yeah, and I mean, again, when I first heard it, my immediate reaction was, "Are you serious?"
I pictured Ringo getting up and going, "Everybody dance." At one point, everybody would go in a circle. Oh man,
It's
yeah.
novelty-esque.
Yes, that's
And
true.
it works for him.
Yeah. Well, now for somebody else, hopeless.
Yes,
Tom.
thank you, Joe. Joe, this should be your rant video theme. It's hopeless because everything is hopeless in your rants. So this would be a good.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is my favorite track on the album. I love when he does these kind of songs. It reminds me of like Rack My Brain. It reminds me of the No song, Oh My, stuff like that. It's comical, and Ringo does that better than anyone, in my opinion. I just think he's brilliant on this track. He sings it great. The band is perfect, and I loved it the minute I heard it on the Starstruck CD, and or I should say vinyl, because that's how I had it first, was on vinyl. But in my opinion, this is a perfect Ringo song.
Yeah,
and the story.
I like it too. I like it too. All right, thank you. Now we move on to the next song, which I'll be done with my view on it pretty quick. It's the very dull, very weird, pointless alibi with no
Hmm.
melody. By Starkey and Walsh. What do you think, guys? Let's start with Tom.
Is this the one that Joel uses the tube in his mouth, kind of like the same effect that
All the talk
No, I think
box.
that's "Be My
yeah, the
Baby." I
talk.
think you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's Be My Baby. Yeah, that's the one.
Wah,
Yeah.
wah, 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 that thing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind this either. I think again, like Ken said at the beginning, at the top of the show, this side I think is really strong, and it continues alibi. I like the lyrics to this one as well, and I think he's on a roll with this one. I mean, the first side again. I'm
Yeah,
just going to keep repeating myself with this, but so I don't want to take up too much time. I enjoy this one just as much as the first two songs.
it's funny because I said earlier that I liked side one better than two, which I guess
Mm,
isn't saying much. No, I mean
yeah,
I have a star next to in my car. I have a
yeah.
star next to Hopeless and Alibi. Even have a star, even though I said it's kind of hard and dull. I don't know. I'm making life feel all right. Okay, whatever. All right, so let's go to Ken. Let's go to Ken for looking for an alibi for this one.
I like it a lot. I think it's kind of funny. Certainly not the greatest melody in the world. A lot
Mm,
of Ringo songs may not have a great melody, but they still work for him in some way. And
right.
this song still sticks in my mind anyway. And just like I was saying, Hopeless reminds me of Oh My. Alibi reminds me of Blind Man.
Damn it, you
Mm,
said it as you were
Oh,
talking.
okay.
I'm thinking Blind Man.
Melodically, it kind of goes in the same direction.
Yes.
It doesn't move around a lot note wise, um, but still, it's something that works for Ringo.
mm.
And again, love the band, love the whole production behind it. It's a simple song, and it works.
Well, Ken, sometimes that happens when somebody's talking like you just did. And as you're talking, I'm saying, hey, that sounds like Blind Man to me. And when you were done, I was going to interject and say, well, I like Blind Man.
Yeah.
I like Blind Man better than Alibi. I think it's the middle part. Come on, Blue, whatever, what you're going to do now. That part, I like that part in it. But yeah, that's interesting take on that. Yeah, see that? You learn all kinds of stuff and think things differently when you listen to the show, folks.
Mm.
All right, Kit.
And Farrell McNulty agreed with both of you. He wrote, but as you were saying, is this the one with the slow guitar intro that kind of sounds like Blind Man?
You're right.
I
You're
feel
right.
like
I didn't even pick that up all the times I listened to it until Ken
Wow.
said it. Let's
Yep.
talk.
Too funny.
Good.
Yeah, I agree that the melody isn't particularly there. But again, this band, once again really cooks. I got to really shout out Mo Foster here. The bass line on this
Mm.
is really, it's a little funky, which I appreciate. And this is just a little sampling. I mean, he does some great bass work throughout this song. I'm definitely, looking up more of his stuff because I really, hadn't appreciated, his playing before. And again, classic guitar work from Joe Walsh. And I actually did note here, Tom, I said I said a wah-wah pedal. I'm not sure
Mm.
if it was that or if there was a subtle bit of talk box,
Right.
which was, the thing back
Mhm.
then. And thanks to Peter Frampton. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just another kind of it's a decent rocker, it's okay. But, there's a song coming up that I like much, much better.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Be My Baby. Is that the one?
That's not the one.
Oh, the one. So it's not coming off later right away.
Let's
Yep.
skip that one and go to the last track on the first side.
Yeah, you bet I will, because that's one of the best things he's ever done.
Yes.
But anyway, Be My Baby. Joe Walsh wrote it. That's the one, Tommy, you were saying about I don't know
Yeah.
what it's called. I didn't
Yeah,
look it
the
up,
voice
mouth.
box.
It sounds like
Mouth.
Rocky Mountain Way. It's not sound. Help.
or the Peter Frampton sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Peter
Wah, wah,
Frampton
wah.
sound. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, 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 wow,
Wow, wow, wow, wow, wow.
Either way,
Mhm.
that helps the song, but again, it's another song to me. Just okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a little corny. Yeah,
everybody
it
join
sounds
in.
corny
Anybody.
now.
No,
Yeah.
it's a good track too, and I like that approach to the song, and it's again, it's not the best, but I think it helps move the first side along. It's good, and it fits nicely on the album. I'm fine with it.
I like the keyboard riff. That has kind of a funky little keyboard riff. I don't know if it's me, but did Ringo's vocals seem mixed way down
A little
on
bit.
this track? Yeah.
But that was I noticed that on the 94 version. This one I hear it a little bit better on this version.
Yeah. I just was curious if you guys noticed it. So he seems to be having, fun on this track. I mean, it seems, you can kind of hear it in his voice that he seems to be getting a kick out of the lyrics, and maybe he thinks the talk box is funny. I don't know, but yeah, okay.
All right. So, Ken, anything to weigh in on that one, or just?
I think this is another killer song. I mean, it's so damn catchy, and it does sound like there are moments on all of Ringo's albums where it sounds like he's having a good time, and that carries in this particular song. And I love the guitar work and the keyboard stuff, like he was saying, the riff in there and the rock solid drumming from Ringo on the song. It really works here. I think 1 or 2 listens and you should be hooked. I know I am.
Right. Yeah, you heard,
Another
folks.
example of why I wish Ringo and Joe would do more work together.
I'm dying to get to the last track on side 1, as Tom was hinting at. She's About a Mover. To me, this is the best track. For many years, it's all I would listen to. If I listen to the album, I pull it out, I put on She's About a Mover, and put it away. I mean, I love this. It's a cover version of the Sir Douglas Quintet song from 1965, and Ringo again having a great time, whooping it up, singing his heart out. I think for me, it's the best track on the album, and I don't know what else I could say about it. I think out of all the songs I've ever heard Ringo record, this is one of my favorites. I would easily, if I was making like a best of Ringo and I had to narrow it down to 20 songs or something, 15, 20 songs, I would put this on there. Best recordings that he's done. And that's what I've got to say about it. Kid, what do you think?
Joe, if we were in person, I'd be doing a fist bump with you right now, because that's exactly how I feel. Love it. Love it. Love it. From the first time, I remember the first time I heard this album, this was the one song that jumped out at me that I thought, this is fantastic. Definitely. Yeah. Hands down for me.
Even with that Dixieland middle.
I love the Dixieland middle. That's one of the great things about it. I love that. I just thought that, what a great touch. I mean, I just thought, it's such a great, if you haven't heard it before, it's such a great surprise going into it. It works, love the horns, me and horns. And, but I love that touch. Ringo sounds like he's, as you said, just having a ball. His voice sounds fantastic on here. The arrangement, it's just perfection. I love it. Love it.
Sounds like a party, even at the end. There's like that kind of like wild party feel to the end of it. Honking of a horn or something.
Yeah, it's great. I agree with you. Should be on a best of compilation.
It was. Yeah,
it was
on that one.
Well, it says she whatever the exact words were, she strolled on up to me and said, "Hey, big boy, what's your name?" And I tongue in cheek, and I laughed like, Ringo's not very tall. I know that doesn't mean anything. We call him Ringo, "Hey, big boy." Ringo's small, That's funny too. Gives me a little laugh when I hear that. All right, so Tom, you were really gung ho for this.
Yeah, again, this is probably my second favorite track on the album. I think it would have made a great album closer. Myself, not just the side 1 closer.
Good point.
Gave it a good strong finish.
You can make it that
the
far.
album. Yeah, well, for you maybe, but
for me. I speak only for me.
But I love that opening organ playing by Bruce McPherson here. I love the brass on this song. Ringo's vocals are excellent. This is just the highlight for the album. And yeah, I mean, when I heard it close out the Starstruck album, I thought this is a great album closer. And you know, and it's a good side A closer too. But you know, like I said, close the album with this really good track. And yeah, I see this, you know, I see a couple possibilities of singles. I see this as maybe a possible single. And
Oh
like
yeah.
Ken, I think you said Hopeless would have been probably could have been a good single in the 70s for Ringo. You know, so yeah, In My Car, Hopeless, and She's About to Move Her were probably could have been, you know, 3 highlights if, you know, if the time was right, you know, for this album. And which unfortunately the time wasn't right probably for this album because nobody wanted it except for 2 countries.
But even
Yeah.
still, Ringo wasn't getting airplay on AM radio with his career
Right.
since the No No
Yeah.
song, or even maybe A Dose of Rock and Roll.
Rack My Brain, maybe.
That's true. At least I went to 38 on
Yeah.
the chart. But
And you got to rack my brain. You got to see the video here and there.
Mhm.
Oh, they played the video. So Ken, let's hear it. I don't know. This is the only one you don't like, probably the one we like.
no, I
Just
immediately
kidding.
jumped on this cover when it first came out, and I played it to death on the radio when I was doing my show in New Jersey. And I always liked it. And I'm surprised that you guys like it as much as you do, because I thought you might have thought that that whole New Orleans Dixieland was would be over the top for
I
this.
love it.
I like
Love
it.
it. It works.
Oh, I think so. Well, it's a cover. Ringo does a lot of great covers, and it depends upon which songs work for him. She's About a Mover is one of those songs that you can just hear him do, even if you never heard this version. And his voice sounds great. And just like what I said about some of the other songs here, he sounds like he's having fun. The band's phenomenal. And you know, how difficult would it be for him to whip this out? You know, in the All-Star Band, you know,
Oh,
a fairly simple song. The band would be into it. It's a classic, you know, song from the 60s, classic hit, you know.
Well, I'd
It's a
go
winner
nuts
to me.
myself. Well, if he did that, you know, you could do it in place of Act Naturally, for all I care. But at this point, I've heard Act Naturally so many times. You know, I'd rather hear this. I got to tell you, folks, I keep forgetting about the song. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. Very good.
Lieber and Stoller, another cover. Just again, not remarkable to me. Although playing it this time, I like the guitar work in there. I thought there was some good guitar in this version. But other than that, it's kind of just a for me. I keep forgetting. Anybody have any feelings on that song?
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, this is an R&B song. It was Chuck Jackson first sang it in 1962. Lieber and Stoller, as you mentioned, composition. Yeah, I just don't think this is a good fit for Ringo. I just thought his voice, I mean, I appreciate that they were having him go into his lower register, which was interesting, but I just didn't think the arrangement was great. You know, it just didn't really work for me. Like Joe Walsh's guitar, I agree on that. I mean, you know, Joe Walsh's guitar will improve any song. But yeah, it just was kind of flat for me. Go listen to the original. It's Chuck Jackson was an incredible singer.
Okay, guys, what do you think? Anybody?
Go ahead, Ken.
This is one that has grown on me. It was one that I wasn't really crazy about when it first came out. What I love a lot about it actually has nothing to do with Ringo, because the drums on there actually come from Russ Kunkel, and the drumming is phenomenal on this song. A lot of interesting stuff being done, the different fills and percussive stuff on there. And actually, if you listen to the Chuck Jackson original, that's part of what made that song unique, was the percussion on that song.
Yes.
So, and I always remember, you know, back in the 60s when the Beatles were giving a lot of press conferences and asking, what music do you listen to? There's one time when Ringo mentioned Chuck Jackson, and I don't remember any of the other Beatles mentioning him at all. Now, maybe this is a song that stuck out for him.
Yeah.
And I do find it interesting that he's singing in that lower range a lot. And the band, again, I hate to sound repetitive, but the band sounds phenomenal here.
Yeah.
I do like the song a lot more now than I did before. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still a little bit on the fence on this one. I don't know if it's the strongest side 2 opener of the choices. Maybe the track listing could have been done a little bit differently to put maybe some of the stronger songs on the first side, maybe onto the second side, just to mix it up a little bit. But again, Kit, guitar playing from Joe is good, and drumming is good from Russell, and but yeah, it's just I'm still on the fence with it. I mean, I'm still in a good mood after She's About a Mover. I'll get into this one, but if this song just comes up on my iPod out of the blue, I might skip it.
Then we have a song called Picture Show Life by John Reed and John Slate.
Yeah.
And Ken, give us your take on Picture Show Life.
Good mid-tempo song, great hooks in it. It's just very enjoyable all the way throughout. I love the guitar playing towards the end, the lead guitar parts there. I always kind of wonder, because I'm not totally sure about this, the John Reed, that's the co-writer, is that the John Reed that managed Elton John and Queen?
I think it is. I think when I was doing some research behind all this stuff, I think it is. Like it's the same guy.
It's a very enjoyable song all the way throughout. I'm not saying it's bad or it's great. It's in the middle. It's better than it's very good. I'll give it that status. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I'm glad that it's on there. And actually, that was another working title for the album.
Yeah.
Picture Show Life. Well, that's better than the other one, whatever it was. It Beats Sleep. All right, Tom. Picture Show Life.
This is one of my favorites on the album. I really like Ken said. I mean, everything about the song I think is really strong. I like this. I like how he's singing about L.A. In this. I mean, obviously he's been in L.A. for a while now, or he's experienced L.A. for a while at this point. I don't know if he's living there yet. He's still in Tittenhurst, right? At this point, or
and he recorded the album there.
But I like his vocals on this one, even though it's not up tempo, but it's still got a nice little tempo to it, and I think this is a good one. I really enjoy this track a lot.
Wow.
And this might be the last good, to me this is probably the last really good track on the album.
The last good track to me was She's About a Mover. So
not everybody can be right, Joe.
Not everybody can agree.
You have every right to be wrong. Yeah.
Because I'll just do my part. I wonder if Kit's going to save me, but I just think it's a forgettable track for me. Okay.
Yeah, I'll save you. I'll save you, Joe. This didn't really do it. It doesn't really do it for me. I think part of it, the band, great. The band sounds fantastic. Good guitar, bass. It's just, to me, the lyrics are just a little trite. I think, just sort of like, LA life, it can be, so shallow. It can, people coming and wanting to be other people and, wanting to forget their past lives. I mean, it's just kind of like, we've heard this before. This has been done before, and it's been done in better ways. And I just so sorry guys, it's just my opinion. Just not very memorable for me. I mean, it's not bad. I don't hate it.
There's got to be a way where we can get some kind of button on here where you can hit the virtual Rotten Tomatoes button and then see it kind of like
I'd like to do that right
now. Splash in your screen or something like that.
Can we do that to a couple of commenters right now? Because we got Tony DeMeo and Christian Dahl both agreeing that Bad Boy is probably the worst album. Not this one. And I love Bad Boy, and that's the most underrated album in my book.
I like every song on Bad Boy except
Where Did Our Love Go?
Yes, that's a stinker.
And I like of course, we love the song. We just don't like Ringo's version of it.
That's a stinker. Absolutely.
I still could at least listen to it though. Anyway, I just had to get that in there. All right. So did we all do? I'm sorry. We did it. You saved me. That's right, Kit.
Yes.
And now we're gonna skip on to the last two tracks, which are, to me, they're both very weak. and they're pretty much instrumentals. One of them is "Everybody's in a Hurry But Me." It says I read that it came about from a jam session between John and Twistle of the Who, Eric Clapton, Ray Cooper. So many times there's people, a whole bunch of great people together, and the result isn't what you'd expect. To me, that's it's just weak to me. It says it's is it written by Ringo and Joe Walsh, or is it just
No,
come
it was
from
written by the band. It was a
Yeah, there was
band.
everybody all together?
co-write.
It's
Yeah.
everybody.
Everybody got a
just a
co-write.
jam. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's instrumental. I think there's a couple of doesn't Ringo say something? Is that the one he goes, "Everybody's in a hurry"?
Everybody's
But
in a
me.
hurry but me.
I like it better when he went, "Who's your daddy?" Daddy.
No, I didn't
I like "Who's
that.
Your Daddy" better than this. I really do.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No, that was
Not
really
convinced.
high on the creepy scale. Very high. Okay, I'm going to be the nerd here. I like this song. I wish it
Okay.
were longer. I really do. I thought it was a great jam. I'm not saying I wanted it to be 10 minutes or anything. Don't get me wrong. But I guess I just was geeking out when I heard that bass, and I'm just like, that's John Entwistle. That's him all the way. I mean, that speed, the speed bass, the screaming guitars. It's just one of those things like, boy, I wish I'd been in the studio when this jam session was going on. I mean, I enjoyed it. It is. I wish it had been just a little longer. Not too long, but I enjoy it. I mean, it's not my favorite track on the album. I mean, it's it doesn't beat She's About a Mover, that's for sure. But I enjoy this. I just think it's a fun jam session.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Anybody? Any last thoughts on these? On that?
I'm not the biggest fan of jams with these guys. I'm not the biggest fan of the All Things Must Pass jam, set. I'm not the biggest fan
I'll
of
let
the
you know
jams.
if I ever play the Apple Jam. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's right. I never heard it.
The jams here, again, it's just like, when we tease McCartney about working with some great artists, hey, and or angry, you got these great musicians and they just want to, jam out or whatever. And they just don't always, it's like, the Yankees when they bought all their players and they think they're going to win the World Series because they've got all these great players, but they don't really have great chemistry. And I'm not saying that these players don't have chemistry. I'm just saying I just don't always end up liking the final result.
No, I understood.
Yeah.
I can see your point. The bottom line for me is, do I enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with the caliber of these musicians, Joe Walsh and Eric Clapton and Ringo and who else is on here?
Entwistle.
Entwistle.
I mean,
Ray Cooper.
no matter what, probably not going to get as much as you're going to expect more than what you end up getting.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But still, I enjoy listening to this. And you nailed it, Kit, when you said you wish this had gone on longer. I love hearing John Entwistle's bass lines.
Isn't the best? I mean, when I heard him, like, God, I miss him. I mean, there was nobody like him. I mean, his bass playing, I mean, it's so distinctive that when you hear it, you know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Without even reading the credits.
And it's kind of like we talked about, as Tom was saying, something like Orchestra.
Yeah.
You got so many great musicians all in a room, and yet I love the instrumental. There's no doubt about it. I love the performance, but it's like you could do more than this. There's always going to be that feeling when you have a superstar like this.
Yeah.
I could
one other thing,
do a 5-minute version of Everybody's in a Hurry.
Right. And the other thing to me is like when Ringo does the Everybody's in a Hurry But Me, it feels like it's just overdubbed in there. It doesn't feel like it's actually part of the jam, but that's just,
could be
my ears.
It could be. It could be. And I don't know if we're going to be talking about the second instrumental, but I wanted to touch on something you said earlier, Ken, that, I think ending the album with 2 instrumentals in a row, very weird. track listing decision. I mean,
Yeah, that's bizarre.
very weird. I think, yeah, I mean, I have nothing against instrumentals, but yeah, why would you end with 2 in a row? I mean, it is very anticlimactic, and yeah, I think, as you said, Tom, end with She's About a Mover, have the, the jam session and then She's About a Mover or something like that.
Right. Well, so you could mix in these two, mix
Right.
one in the middle of one side and mix, put the other one in the middle of the other side,
Yeah.
and kind of like bury them a little bit.
Mhm.
Maybe the album flow a little bit better. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm, talking crazy because I love the first half and I really don't want that to be changed anyways.
No.
So, of course, we're talking, the last track we're talking about is Going Down, which is another instrumental, largely instrumental. I picked up on some zippy drumming, I called it, in here. I'll try to find something good to say about it to save it for me. It just, it doesn't interest me. None of this album really interests me. I'm thinking none of the thing on here really is as good. I'm defending Bad Boy. I think when people put Bad Boy down, they see the cover with just Ringo's hand with a drink, and they think that's another one of his lousy cocktail kind of music albums. No, it's not. It's got Who Needs a Heart on there, which is rock. It's got Hard Times on there. It's got Heart on My Sleeve on there. Those 3 songs are all better than just about anything on here originally. I mean, the originals on here. So, in my opinion, it's all subjective, but it just boggles the mind.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody could really, listen to it again and let me know if you really feel the same way. But
we could do another listen.
Another.
When we've gone through all the another listens, then we'll do the another listen. Yeah.
Because we're going to get somebody listening to this in my comments on my channel or here even, they will say, "Oh, this guy's putting Ringo down." Oh, I defend him all the time. All his albums, I love his albums, and I'm the only guy ever speaking up of them. But this one is well, I'll wrap it up at the end when we finish. But Going Down. Is there anything else to say about it? Anybody want to say anything about it?
No.
It's great sounding. It's the band is cooking on it, but it's a very predictable instrumental.
Very good summary. Yeah. Very predictable instrumental. That is a very good summary.
It's really good scoring music on my radio show.
It's like it's good background music.
That's interesting. You're right. That's right. It's been a while. Nobody said, by the way, I love the cover of Old Wave. I love the picture of Ringo and the drumsticks on the back. I love
the drumsticks on the back. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I like that.
Yes, that is a nice cover. I will say that. Absolutely.
So, so I think we've really done it. So, I think we've gone as far as we can go here on this album. So, except for some final thoughts, I thought let's go around and just get some final thoughts as it pertains to another listen. Then and now. What do you think now? Ken, let's start with you for this one.
I would say probably based on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this album a 7. And like I said earlier, side 1 is killer, no doubt about it. And I still enjoy the songs on side 2. There's so much on every Ringo album, every solo album. You're not the only one that's defended Ringo. There's so much there to enjoy. And I actually, because even though I mix songs from Old Wave into my radio show, Every Little Thing, all the time, I actually listened to the album all the way through for the first time in a long time. And just the sound, and I don't have the remaster, the sound is great. It's really so well mixed, and I love hearing the bass so, mixed so well, and Joe Walsh's guitar playing. I think this is a very worthwhile effort to pick up. And if anything, like I said before, I think that you'll feel that Ringo and Joe Walsh are a natural team together. I enjoy collaborations with any of the Beatles, and I love the fact that Ringo went from writing with George Harrison to Vinnie Poncia to Joe Walsh here, then to Mark Hudson and the Roundheads, and then all the people after Mark Hudson, and it makes it all interesting. How these different collaborations sound and which ones work the best and which people does he work with the best as songwriters. But I have enjoyed thoroughly what he does with Joe Walsh. Maybe it's just his guitar playing, his style of songwriting with Ringo. I think that they are natural together. And, I do wish they would do more than the occasional one song on an album, or now EPs, whatever. I wish that they would, do a full album together again. But I'll say that about a lot of other people with Ringo, so I like what Ringo's done with Richard Marx and Dave Stewart, and a lot of people.
Yeah.
So there you go.
In the contents, in the comments. It's getting late here, folks. Thomas Calden says, I've never heard Ringo's Old Wave album, but it was included in a book I used to have by Jimmy Gutterman called The 50 Worst Records of All Time. I'm surprised that was in there and Ringo the Fourth wasn't, because usually that gets singled out. I disagree with that, but someone Ollie Perry gives it a 7.
Okay.
M. Burley gives it a B-. Lynette gives it a solid 6. What's this? I could go with a 6, Susan says. But she considers Old Wave a middling Ringo album. I like that.
Yep.
Okay, Kit, what do you think generally as wrapping it up?
Yeah, I really wanted to change my mind about the original opinion I had of this album all those years ago when I first heard it in the 90s, and it just wasn't there for me. Still love She's About a Mover, just like I did the first time. I mean, that was the highlight. But for me, this definitely, for me, ranks at the bottom of the Ringo albums. Just, nothing remarkable, nothing terrible, but just nothing remarkable either. Band's great. I agree with you, Ken, on the sound. I think Joe Walsh did a great job on the production in that way. Ringo's voice sounds terrific, particularly considering what he was going through at the time. But, I just think the material wasn't strong. But boy, would he come back in a big way 9 years later. And that album, Time Takes Time, was fantastic.
And sadly, I don't know if it's partly due to this reception of this, but nobody wanted to know for Time Takes Time, and that one was really good.
Oh, stellar.
Better,
not better, but just as good as Ringo in many ways. I mean, I thought absolutely.
I agree.
Okay, Tom.
I had a great time revisiting this album. I just thought it was 10 times better than what I remembered. And I'll be honest, I haven't listened to this album in quite a few years. Might even been over 10 years since I've last listened to the album proper. I have, quite a few songs of this on this album on my iPod that I, when it comes up, I listen to. But I loved revisiting this album, and I don't think it's his worst album by far. I might like this album more than I like Stop and Smell the Roses. I know I like it more than Ringo the Fourth. So I think this is a great album, not a great album. I think this is a really good album. Great musicians, great co-writing with Joe Walsh, great production by Joe Walsh, and I agree with Ken that I wish they would do more together. Gotta Get Up, Get Down was not enough. Let's get a whole album again of Ringo and Joe Walsh before the two sail off into the sunset. But this was the whole purpose of this the series, and it served its purpose, because if it wasn't for the show, the series, I might not have given this album another chance, and who knows how long. And I'm glad, Kit, that you came up with the idea for this series, and it worked for me.
That's a good point. Yep, that's what the series is all about.
Okay, now I'm forgetting. Did we do everybody? I miss Ken. I don't remember.
Nope, just you.
Just me.
Yep. Just Billy Preston.
Last question. I've forgotten Billy Preston. Well, for me, my final thoughts. I still find it a pretty mediocre album. One of Ringo's worst albums, near the bottom. I used to have it dead last. I'm not sure, because when I said side one is better than side two, it wasn't saying much. The main thing I say is that I love She's About a Mover. I've said that before. I think it's one of the most great tracks he ever recorded is on this album. But other than that, there's nothing to me anything near as good on here. But I like as far as we can go better than I did. That's what I got out of this time. I think I like it as far as we can go better than I had before. And hopeless. Really, I like the other ones. It's just not to me. Nothing really remarkable on here. Is really what it comes down to, in my opinion. Yeah, and it mystifies me because as it does with a lot of times when we have opinions that aren't shared, it's getting a lot of better acclaim now that where I'm coming across from fans. A lot of people
Yes.
say Old Wave is pretty good, and that's a good thing. I'm glad they like it. I just mystifies me, from my opinion. I'm like, wow, they really do, huh? What am I missing? Um,
Me too.
but I don't know. We have fun, I guess, as fans saying when people ask us what is the bottom album. If you're going to list the top tier, middle tier, lower tier, what's the bottom? I'm like, I have to think about that a little bit. For me, is it still Old Wave? I have a couple of other ones maybe, but Old Wave or Postcards from Paradise, or maybe people are he's gonna throw tomatoes at me, tomatoes. Uh, maybe Choose Love. I don't know. I can that tomatoes. I got it. I got a Ken
Uh-oh.
Michaels tomato right in the kitchen.
Uh-oh.
Um, yeah, I mean, something's got to go on the bottom tier.
Mhm.
But it still may be this for me.
But
That's just how it would.
you always say something's got to go on the bottom, but my point
Yeah,
is even the ones at the bottom have really good material on it that's worth checking out.
Right.
Nothing is a
Exactly.
waste of
Yeah.
time.
everything, everyone. I don't know. I got to think about that with Ringo. Well, this one it's near the bottom, and it has a couple of things, but I don't think everything on the Beatles solo albums goes from good to great at all. That's my opinion of that.
I feel that way. There's a few select songs that I think are flunkers, but most of the Beatles solo music is at the very least good.
Okay, folks, you heard it there. So now at this point, this is where we turn it over to Kit to let us know where we can be found if you want to reach us and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, first of all, feel like it's a good time to say thank you for tuning in and for supporting us and for the news tips. So many of the news tips that Ken read tonight came from you guys. So thank you so much, and keep them coming. This is such an interactive show, and that really demonstrates just how interactive it is. So thank you so much, for your support. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on our website, talkmoretalk.com. You can find us, of course, right here on this channel. And please subscribe. Please give us likes. That helps us, get more visibility on YouTube. So we really appreciate it. You can also follow us on Twitter at talkmoretalk1, the number 1, and you can reach us via email at talkmoresolotalk@gmail.com. Please send us your news, send us any ideas you might have for future shows, and your feedback. We love to hear from you guys, and you can hear us on virtually any podcasting platform you can think of. We're pretty much everywhere, and you can hear us thanks to Beatle Ed on fab4radio.com, and he also carries many of our individual shows. So please check us out there as well. So I think that's everywhere you can find our show.
All right, thanks, Kit. I wanted to say here, this reminds me too. A couple of people said, like Christian said, do Pipes of Peace next, which we've done that one in the series, right?
Yes.
And someone said somewhere in England. I don't know if that was a suggestion, but didn't we do somewhere in England as well?
I think we did, didn't we?
So?
I'm
Because
not
with
sure.
different shows, I wonder what show am I thinking?
Yeah,
of?
we're
Our
over
show?
100 now, so it's kind of like, what do we
So-
do that? Do we do that?
Yeah.
So we did them, but that's a good time for me to mention. Older shows, we like you to watch older shows as well.
Yes.
Because YouTube has done something different here. When
Mhm.
you go onto our channel, if you ever want to say, well, let me look at the menu, so to speak, and see what they've got here, videos I might want to watch, old shows. If you Usually people just go as the default to videos, but now because of the change, since we do a live show, you have to hit live. So anyway, check both of them out. Check out videos, and then hit live. Like this show here was done live, so you won't find it in videos 6 months from now.
Under
You
live.
got to
Yeah.
go into
Mhm.
live.
Yep.
Check
Good point.
both. That's
Yes. Check
important.
videos and live. You're right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
So let's see now. As far as what we're doing now, what's going on now and in the future for me, just go to my channel, please, if you'd like to subscribe over to Meet Mr. Mayo. And just basic stuff I've been doing lately. I can't think. Record store videos about hanging out there with the characters. It's like a sitcom over there, a reality show of a lot of characters over there. And also, I got all kinds of stuff about the Beatles as well. New stuff. And there's a lot of Revolver stuff out there. If you haven't had enough of that yet, all right. So check out my channel. Okay, let's go. Kit, you gave us the information, but did you tell us all about your projects you have coming?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to make this as brief as I can because I've got a lot going on right now. But first off, I am co-hosting a brand new podcast along with good friends of our show, Ed Chen and Martin Quibble. We are hosting a show called Toppermost of the Poppermost, and it's a show that looks at the Beatles in a different way. We're looking at not only the Beatles songs, but the songs that were on the charts at the same time that they were. And we're going to go month by month. So, for example, we're starting with October 1962, because that's when Love Me Do first appeared on the charts. So we'll talk about that, but we're also going to look at it in terms of other artists and songs that were on the British and US charts, but artists and songs that relate to the Beatles, because we obviously can't talk about every single song on the charts at the time. So these will be artists that had either a direct connection to the Beatles or may have influenced them in various ways. Maybe the Beatles covered them, or it's Motown that obviously had a great influence on them, something along those lines. So we're going to take a different month each episode and talk about, whatever Beatles single was on the chart at that time, and then select certain songs and artists that we'll talk about that were also on the British and US charts at that time. So if you want to check out the trailer, you can go to our Facebook page and join the group. It's Toppermost of the Poppermost on Facebook. And we have the trailer link to that on Podbean right there. And you'll get a sneak preview of what we'll be doing, and the first episode should be up pretty soon. So do if you sign up for our page, you'll get notified of when new episodes are going up. Very excited about it. I think this is going to be a fun time and just a different way of approaching the Beatles music. So really looking forward to, let us know what you think.
Congratulations, really, because one show is never enough.
No, I know I needed to follow you guys. I decided I was slacking off. You guys have other shows.
You would have said yes to Fab Gab, maybe, as a regular host.
Well, yes. Well, I'm still going to do Fab Gab.
I'm not going to ask her. She's got too much.
No. I'll still do Fab Gab, of course. No. I will still do guest appearances. No.
Yes, I meant as a regular. At one time, I was thinking of you as a permanent co-host at one point.
I
thought, that's a lot.
Yeah, but oh no, I will still, I will still be available. And this one, it's not like every week. So that's why I agreed to do it. If it had been every week, we would have had a problem. But yeah, this is doable. This is doable. So that's going on. If you haven't signed up yet, and you're listening or watching this in time, my Rock and Roll Part 2 class starts this Thursday, December 1st. So if you haven't signed up, you might want to get on that and do that. So the deadline, as I said, for signing up is this Thursday. The information is on the Talk More Talk page as well as my page. Also be on the lookout. I did an interview with Joe Johnson, who's the host of Beatle Brunch. We do this every year. It's the my Beatles gift list, which will also be coming up soon. And we'll be talking about, the best releases of the year. And we had a really fun discussion about other Beatles related things this year. And join me and Ken Womack on December 6th for Tuesday Night Record Club at Monmouth University. This is online, and I'll have links to that on our pages as well, where we're going to be talking about Aretha Franklin's 1972 album, Young, Gifted, and Black. Really looking forward to it. It's got great songs on it, like Daydreaming, Rock Steady, just an incredible album. So hope you'll join us for that. It is absolutely free. So come spend an evening with us and listen to some great music.
Okay. Tom, what's going on?
Well, busy as always. Last 2 weeks have been busy, especially with the announcement of the singles box set. So we had a great time talking about that between Andy and I. And then we had another show with our buddy here, me and Mr. Mayo, and then another friend in the UK called Beatley Tone, who's got a channel called Beatley Tone's Beatle Channel, which is really, really good show as well. And let's see here, 2 weeks ago, or 10 weeks ago, or 10 weeks ago, 10 days ago, we had Mark Easter and Chip Manninger, the authors of the wonderful 8 Arms to Hold You. And that's where Chip spilled the beans and said that we're, expecting this Ringo 50th anniversary set. So hopefully that happens, and check us out over there. Yesterday, we had an amazing 2 hours with the authors of the upcoming McCartney Legacy book, and that is Alan Kozin and Adrian Sinclair. And you can find that episode coming December 10th. So really looking forward to that. And we put up a very, very funny little minute trailer for that, and dealing with a former band of Denny Lane's prior to jumping on the McCartney bandwagon. So check that out. A lot of fun. This book I cannot speak highly enough of. Coming out December 13th. If you haven't pre-ordered it, please do. It's going to be well worth your time. And just such an amazing. This is for me now the gold standard in McCartney reading. It's a Lewison style book, in my opinion. Tells a great story from 1969 to 1973. Check it out. If you want to email us, please email us at twolegspodcast at gmail.com. And check out our YouTube channel. And I'm done.
So
That's
soon?
all, folks.
Yeah, that's it. I'm
Okay,
talked out.
Ken, you're up, Ken.
You can get dizzy trying to follow everybody here.
Yeah,
Not
right.
me. I don't have that much stuff going on.
That's not
First
true.
of all, my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio. As I said earlier, I just did an interview with Joe Thomas. Joe is the producer of right here, Ringo Starr and his All-Star Band, live at the Greek Theater 2019. We talk a lot about the audio and the video and all the work that got put into that. I can't recommend this highly enough. Complete concert. That alone, those 2 words,
Right.
be enough. You get to see and hear everything that goes into it. And every All-Star Band is a killer lineup, and certainly that is the case. You really get to see, if you never witnessed this tour, how much these guys enjoy performing on stage together. But do check out the interview that I did with Joe Thomas, Ken Michaels Radio, and please subscribe to my channel. My other podcast show, Things We Said Today, we just finished doing 2 shows on Revolver, one on the outtakes, the other on the remix. And tomorrow we're recording a show as a tribute to George. There's never been a really good George Harrison compilation. So we put together our own list, a 2 CD of what we would want. And there's no rules.
Oh, cool.
If you want it to be all obscure tracks, it can be that. If you want it to be part hits, part album cuts, and deep tracks, it's whatever we feel like putting on there. So we're recording that tomorrow as a tribute to George. Also on my website, since I just mentioned this is a new prize on the website. You can win the double CD now. I just had a special contest where you can win the double CD Blu-ray combo, and that just ended today, as a matter of fact. Winners will be announced tomorrow. I will have 4 winners of the double CD Blu-ray And that'll
I
be
gotta
announced.
start changing my name and doing that and using another name.
That's what
I
I
like
was
the one.
thinking. Can I enter as like,
I know
Kip,
your address is.
Kippo Pool or
Cat,
something?
no cat, like
Cat.
your yeah.
New name.
Yeah, all right.
Also, I just want to mention that the last few weeks I've been appearing on a few other podcast shows, one of which is Ed Rising's show called Pop-O-Matic. And actually, both shows that I'm on, we do a lot of talking about my love of radio and how I got brought up on it, and my love of the charts following how well singles and albums do. And of course, talking about the Beatles as well. If you want to catch the show with Ed, it's at podomatic.com. And then I was on Call Me Mr. Broadstreet, another podcast show that Ed Crawford hosts. Again, a lot of talk about radio. Actually, on Ed's show, we talk a lot about the Partridge Family. Seriously, because he loves the Partridge Family too, and I'm a big lover of pop music, and we talk about why. So if you're a Partridge Family fan as well as a Beatle fan, you'll love that particular show. There you go.
There you Perfect.
These guys are always ready, no matter what, on a dime. So yeah, if you can, check out Call Me Mr. Broadstreet. He has his own YouTube channel. And I'm on, should be, I think, the next to most recent one. All right, and if you want to email me, you can always write to me at everylittlething@att.net.
All right, that's it. I can't think of a zippy ending for this. I already used as far as we can go already. I think we've gone as far as we could go with this show, so I'll use it again. So anyway, for Kid O'Toole, Tom Agnati, Ken Michael, Lily, Grandpa, Eddie. This has been Mr. Mayo saying, Yugi Mao Yao, Yugi Mao.